Slice and Dice is an amazing new add-on for Blender, enabling a new workflow for rigid body simulations and abstract art. In this video, I will be demonstrating some of the ways Slice and Dice can simplify your rigid body simulation workflow and make some interesting abstract designs. With the default cube selected, press the N key to bring up the Properties window in the 3D viewport. Select the Tools menu, where you will find the Slice and Dice add-on once it is installed. Change the number of slices in the X, Y, and Z axes to 10 to slice up the default cube into a regular grid of smaller cubes. Unlike the Remesh modifier, Slice and Dice creates individual and separable cubes, enabling greater flexibility and opens a world of possibilities for rigid body simulations. To create a rigid body simulation using all these cubes, click and drag to select all of the individual cubes. Go to the Physics tab and enable rigid body simulations. Customize the rigid body physics for the cube. In this case, I have adjusted the mass of the cube to be 2 kilograms. With all the cubes still selected, click Object from the toolbar, Rigid Bodies, and select Copy from Selected. This will copy the rigid body settings to all the cubes from the one we just customized. Now, create a new plane, scale it up and move it down to fit beneath all the cubes. Then go to Rigid Bodies in the Physics menu, and add a Rigid Body Physics modifier to the plane. Then turn the rigid body setting to passive. Pressing play on the timeline will run the physics simulation. You can see all the cubes collapsing into each other. I've quickly added another rigid body cone to this simulation to demonstrate the simplicity of setting up these simulations using the Slice and Dice add-on for Blender. In less than a couple of minutes, we have set up a visually complex rigid body simulation, which would previously have taken much longer to configure. Create a new cube mesh, and in the Slice and Dice settings, change the number of X and Y slices back to the default values of 0, leaving the number of Z slices at 10. Change the slice angle in the X axis to 20 degrees, and then press Slice and Dice. The cube has now been sliced in the Z axis 10 times, but a 20-degree angle has now been applied about the X axis to each slice. Applying a 20-degree rotation in the Y-axis, in addition to the X-axis, creates cuts diagonally towards the corners of the cube instead. You can also select the Random Slice Angle button to apply a random cut angle to each slice. This creates an interesting destructive pattern to your meshes. The maximum angle of the random angle is specified using the slice angle properties. Selecting the random slice location option causes the slices to be applied at irregular intervals along the vertical axis. This option can be used on its own, or in combination with the random slice angle. Another useful setting is the Explode Mesh option. This separates the sliced meshes in interesting ways, including radially, which moves all slices radially away from the center of the original mesh. You can adjust the scale to move the sliced meshes further away. Other options include vertically, which moves all the slices in the vertical direction. Laterally, which moves all the slices away in the X and Y plane, and finally, the random setting applies a random offset in the vertical axis. Slice and Dice is not limited to simple primitive meshes. It is capable of slicing more complicated objects, such as this photogrammetry scan. In cases such as this, it may be necessary to enable the Accurate Cuts option to ensure the complex geometry performs as expected. And finally, there may be situations where you don't want to separate the sliced meshes, abstract art design for example. In this case, disable the Split Cubes option to ensure all slices remain as a single mesh. Slice and Dice is constantly evolving, and new features will be added free of charge upon purchasing the product from the Blender market. We hope you enjoy this Blender add-on and will find it useful for your own artistic and physics projects. If you make any artistic creations using this Blender add-on, please share them with us by tagging us in your Twitter posts.